your artworks. Our final speaker this morning is Gordon Pearman. Mr. Pearman is himself a graduate of MBA and has been back to campus several times to run programs for us and to speak to us, though I believe this is the first time in this particular venue, so we're very glad to have him here again. He, after leaving MBA, went to UVA and then Divinity School at Yale and Vanderbilt, and one of his passions of recent years has been setting up and operating mindfulness programs at various institutions in town, along with Dr. Roy Elam, another MBA alumnus. So he's taught these programs at St. Thomas, at Vanderbilt Law and Medical School, and he also teaches classes at Vanderbilt Divinity School. So we're very glad to have him back with us this morning, so please join me in welcoming Gordon Pearman.
When I was sitting where you are, some 50-odd years ago, the thing that rattled me the most, the things that made my nerves bad was this: standing up and speaking in front of a group of people. I want to say I was so impressed by, I didn't catch his name, but the student who made the presentation on addiction. Your presence and capacity to connect was remarkable. I want to give him a hand of applause. Lots of people are afraid of public speaking. Google it. It's like the #1 fear. What exactly was I afraid of? Well, there was this fear of performing poorly, looking stupid. And I had an early addiction. Speaking of addictions, I had an early addiction to perfection. I wanted to do things pretty much perfectly, and I am all these years later a recovering perfectionist. But I think most of all, I didn't want you to know that I was scared. I remember at commencement my senior year, I happened to be the editor of the Bell, and I was reading aloud the dedication of the annual to Coach Owen, whose statue, of course, stands by the stadium bearing his name. I was so nervous reading that dedication. No one listening to me speak could have failed to hear my voice shaking. The other night I was watching a wonderful retrospective on the life of the legendary coach John Madden. You know him through the video game Madden. I had forgotten that the reason that John Madden crisscrossed America in his Madden cruiser bus, driving all the way from one NFL game to another, was that he was terrified of flying. Big John Madden, larger than life, had a panic attack on a flight from Tampa Bay to San Francisco in 1978, and he vowed that he would never, not ever, get on an airplane again. He was such a genuine guy. He was like, I don't care what you think about this. I don't ever want to be in the neighborhood of a panic attack again. And so CBS rented him Dolly Parton's tour bus, and he liked it so much that they got him one of his own. The Madden Cruiser today is parked in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where it sits along with a bust of John Madden. A panic attack is an extreme form of emotional hijacking. Have you ever had a panic attack? I am telling you, Because I have, it will bring you to your knees. This is not your garden variety, feeling a little bit nervous event. A panic attack is a heart-racing, sweating, can't breathe, dizzy, think you're going to pass out, think you're having a heart attack event. Some months after my wife died, I was leading a worship service at St. Augustine's Chapel at Vanderbilt, and I had a panic attack, just like Coach Madden. And I could not continue to lead the service. This was my worst nightmare coming true. Incapacitating terror in front of the congregation. I'd never had a panic attack before. Mercifully, another priest stepped up and took over the service. Later, I felt so ashamed, but actually, there was nothing to be ashamed of, although it would take me some time to come to that realization. But I'll tell you, the next time I had a service to do, the next time I had some public speaking, I sure did wonder, is this gonna happen again? I wasn't too fired up about getting on the horse again. I'm tempted to ask the faculty if any one of you have ever had a panic attack. This kind of stuff happens to human beings. Douglas Pascal, Mr. Joya's predecessor, used to like to call us human critters. That is to say, for all of our impressive cognitive capacity, we have this vulnerable, not bulletproof animal nature. I don't care how well put together you are. You can be John Madden, the most outgoing and spontaneous person in the world, and have a panic attack. I want you to try a little something with me. I want you to hold up one hand, palm facing your face. And I want you to put your index finger down by your wrist on the side of your pinky finger. And we're just going to inhale this finger up, the small little finger, and exhale and bring it down. And we're going to inhale up, next finger, ring finger, and bring it down. You see where this is going. Inhale up the middle finger, and exhale down. Up the index finger, and exhale down to the thumb. And then up the thumb, and exhale down. So you get the drill here. You get where this is going. So what are we doing here, neurologically speaking? There is a part of your brain, it's called the amygdala, and it remembers every bad thing that ever happened to you. And when you get in the neighborhood of difficulty, it starts firing and it says, danger, danger, danger. Public speaking, danger, danger, danger. Getting on an airplane, danger, danger, danger. This is beyond your conscious control. You can't think your way out of this. However, when we do this simple exercise, which focuses on sensation and breathing, we dampen, we diminish the firing of the amygdala, and we increase the activity of the so-called executive centers of the brain. This is called the prefrontal cortex. It's the newest part of the brain. The amygdala is old reptilian part of the brain. And something called the anterior cingulate cortex. For those of you who take medication for ADHD, medication works on the ACC, not Atlantic Coast Conference. It's the anterior cingulate cortex. And it helps you focus. meditation, focused concentration, like medication, also works on the ACC. I remember after Hurricane Katrina, I was asked to fly down to Baton Rouge to help people who had been traumatized by what happened down there. With little children who have survived natural disasters like earthquakes, wildfires, floods, we teach them something called the butterfly hug. I want you to bring your arms across your chest like so. And I want you to just tap your shoulders on an alternate way, not at the same time, but just alternating. Yeah. What we're doing here is we're inviting both halves of the brain to speak to each other. When we get scared, when we get hijacked by anger or sorrow, the brain doesn't talk to each other across what's called the corpus callosum, or the connecting fibers. And what this does is begin to get both halves of the brain talking to each other. Good. Now bring your attention down to your belly, and I want you to imagine that you're breathing in and inflating a balloon. So it's kind of like walking and chewing gum at the same time. So it's like breathing in and breathing out. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. What we're doing here is giving the mind something to do other than to work its tapes of disaster. And we're sending a signal to the brain by way of the body, it's safe here. If you know how to use these meditation hacks, you can stop an emotional hijacking. If you bring the body, we meditation teachers like to say, the mind will follow. For the last semester, I've been meeting with a group of 10 to 12 of your faculty at 6:45 on Thursday mornings. We meet each week for 45 minutes. My goal has been to introduce them to what neuroscientists are learning about targeting attention and how that affects brain development. In short, I have been teaching them to meditate so that they can teach you. But why? Why learn to meditate of all things? I'm curious, how many of you know the Headspace app? There are a couple of you who do. Yeah, that's a good app. I like that app. And there's a good podcast by Dan Harris. He used to be an ABC News broadcaster, called 10% Happier. Dan Harris created this podcast after he had a panic attack on the air when he was broadcasting. Not flying on a plane, but he was on the air. The capacity to focus, to sustain attention, is the foundation for well-being. I want to say that again. The capacity to focus, to sustain attention, is the foundation for well-being. Sometimes it's a narrow, precise focus, like when you're looking at that target in riflery. And sometimes it's a much larger, broader focus, like when you're taking in the whole field at the same time. It's like being in the flow, when everything just slows down and you're just knocking them down. There's a neuroscientist at the University of Wisconsin named Richard Davidson. He's been a leader in the study of training attention. And that's what meditation is. It's just training attention and what it does to the brain in terms of well-being. And here's what his research shows. Well-being is actually a skill. When you practice it, you get better at it. There are measurable neural changes in your brain that meditation facilitates. And that's why the U.S. military and sports psychologists working with professional and Olympic athletes and medical centers like Vanderbilt teach meditation because meditation fosters well-being in the face of the significant challenges of combat and athletic performance and bodily illness. The scientific literature is immense, but for our purposes, there are 4 main brain circuits of interest. Meditation grows the neurological substrate, that is to say, it grows brain cells for resilience, which is the rapidity from which you recover from adversity. It grows these brain cells for positive outlook, which is the capacity to see goodness in yourself and in others. For focused attention, which is the very root of judgment and character and will. And for generosity. When you engage in generous and altruistic behavior, you engage circuits in the brain that foster well-being. In plain English, people who learn to meditate feel better. A final note. I live about a 15-minute walk from here, and at sunset, I like to walk through the campus. Sometimes I'll run a few routes on the football field just for old time's sake. It's what 70-year-old guys like to do. I can remember particular plays that happened at particular places on the field. And since my class of 1969 was undefeated in football from the 7th grade through the 12th grade, there is a lot of joy in those memories. On my late afternoon walks, I always walk in front of this new building. And in the darkening skies, all lit up in big letters, are the words, "Health is a state of body. Wellness is a state of being." On my way home, I always stop at Coach Owen's statue and thank him and my teachers for the well-being that I began to know here, for the generosity of my teachers and coaches. And I give thanks for the goodness my friends and I saw in each other, and for the love we have for one another today. And maybe most of all, for the lessons in resilience and the capacity to stand up in front of a group of people and speak, even when you've had a panic attack. So thank you for letting me be with you this morning.